probably Joe Flacco, but there is a whole preseason to play out. Very rarely have we seen a rookie mid-round draft pick ascend to a starting job, but they're all going to have an opportunity to do it this summer. People wondering about Micah Parsons, whether or not he'll attend the Cowboys' mandatory minicamp. Well, he tweeted out yesterday he will be there, despite the fact that he has not always been there for OTAs. He has been in talks about an extension, and at some point in time, he's going to become the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. Meanwhile, Kyle Pitts has been dealing with a strain in his foot, which is why he hasn't been practicing. There have been teams that have called the Falcons. They don't want to part ways with them unless they got something that they couldn't turn down. But there are teams that are calling, and Pitts has been dealing with a foot injury. We'll see how that one plays out. It is worth watching. And speaking of tight end news, the Pittsburgh Steelers lost their tight end Donald Parham yesterday. He wound up tearing his Achilles. They also have had conversations with the Dolphins about a potential Jonnu Smith trade. So a couple of tight end question marks in Pittsburgh while they wait for the biggest question mark of all to be answered, and that's what are the Steelers doing at quarterback? Let's keep in mind, the Steelers have a mandatory minicamp that opens next week, Tuesday. They report to training camp 7 weeks from today, and we still don't know whether Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. We've heard Art Rooney, the Steelers owner, say that they expect that Rodgers eventually will sign, but here we are, June 4th. Nothing but silence. And at some point in time, if he's not there for the mandatory minicamp and he's just planning to show up for training camp, does that organization have a conversation and say, should we be calling the Atlanta Falcons to see if there's a way to get Kirk Cousins in here if we have not been given any assurances from Aaron Rodgers? But the question that has hung out there all offseason continues to hang out there now. We all wait for answers from Aaron Rodgers.
That QB1 question will continue to dominate the offseason. There's a new QB1 in Nashville. The Titans drafted Cam Ward first overall. Ward talked about his wide receiver one, Calvin Ridley, this week.
That man a dog. He can win versus press man. He knows zone. I think he's one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL, if not the best.
You know, he just ain't just calm. He relaxed. So, I mean, you need that at the quarterback position, man. You can't just be an overthinker, a jittery guy. You just got to kind of, be okay with, up, doing good, and just got to have that mentality. He kind of got that.
Booger McFarland, Louis Riddick joining us again here on NFL Live. Bleep it mentality, Boog. Good advice for a QB entering the NFL?
Well, listen, as Mike Tomlin once said, I'd rather say woe than sick him. I don't mind a guy that has a mentality that he wants to go get it all, and I got to rein him in a little bit. But I'm just going to pivot a little bit. You heard what Calvin Ridley said. Says, man, he's just so calm and just so relaxed. Think about the quarterback that we said that about last year. Think about that guy. That guy was Jayden Daniels. It's an amazing attribute that a quarterback has to have: the calmness, the poise, the relaxation in the pocket, almost nonchalant. I think Cam Ward is in for a big season, and I love the attitude when you talk about the effort attitude. It doesn't matter, and we know it matters, but it's the attitude that I'm willing to throw a ball in the tight coverage so my receiver can go make a play. I think every receiver on that team will benefit from that, and I think the coaches will say, you know what, we like you being aggressive, and if you get too aggressive, Louis, we'll bring you back just a little bit.
Yeah, one of the first things I want to say about Cam Ward is the coaches down at Miami, Mario Cristobal primarily, said this is one of the greatest leaders in the history of the Miami Hurricane football program. Let me put that out there. This dude is a dog. He is legit. He is for real. Okay, he does have that mentality of where he'll say, hey, look, I'll take a chance because I believe. I believe in me. I believe in my pregame studies. I believe in my ability to, detect tendencies, and I'm going to try and take some chances that maybe I shouldn't take all the time. And sometimes it works with fantastic plays. Sometimes it got him into trouble this past year. He's going to have to rein some of that in, especially some of the cross-field throws, some of the, lack of ball security in the pocket. I was at a game at Georgia Tech where he had the ball knocked off of him late as he's trying to extend the play. Here's a game against Cal that he came back and they won this game because of a lot of his heroics. But he'll have to rein some of that in. That doesn't mean lose it, but he'll have to rein some of that in. I think the thing that you're going to see with Cam Ward, as this season goes on and as his career progresses, is that this guy is a football savant when it comes to being able to digest large amounts of information and really play at a high level in terms of football IQ. I love the kid, absolutely love him, and he is a stone-cold killer of a leader, and I think that's exactly what Tennessee needed.
And Lou, you're not the only one who loves him. Essentially, the Titans have loved him all through the draft process. The Giants loved him. The Browns loved him. These teams tried to trade up. The New York Giants offered 2 number-1 draft picks in addition to other draft picks to try to get up to number 1 to go get Cam Ward. And the Titans really never entertained any offers, never engaged in any meaningful trade discussion. They were locked in on staying at number 1 and taking a quarterback who, the way he plays the game, reminds them of Patrick Mahomes, not with the arm talent, but with the instincts. With the instincts, Lou, that's what they think,
Exactly.
right?
And you would think that's what Ridley's talking about with that bleep it mentality, not having it become the YOLO ball that basically cost Will Levis his job. Tennessee, a minus coordinator Steve Spagnuolo was asked about the importance of Chris Jones appearing at OTAs.
Yeah, he's fun. Guy's never had a bad day in his life, except game day when I don't make the right call or something. But listen, I enjoy having Chris around here. I think the other guys do too, and he's kind of handled it really good. I think he enjoys being around too. I think he gets some time with he's got his kids here and stuff. So it's been really good. Smooth. It feels like in season, because he's here.
ESPN Analytics likes KC. The Chiefs have the second best chance to win the Super Bowl, only behind the team that prevented the three-peat last year in Philly. Bills, Ravens, Lions make up the next best chances, with Buffalo and Detroit still seeking a first Super Bowl win. The Lions have yet to make a Super Bowl appearance. 60th time. Maybe that's a charm. Louis Riddick, you betting against Patrick Mahomes that the Chiefs don't take a step back, or do you think they stay atop the AFC?
I do. I think they're right there. The football team's better. They improved it in every area that they needed to improve it. Look, there's just no question that, their first-round pick, Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, was the best tackle in the draft before he got injured last year in the first month of the season at Ohio State. Had he not got hurt, he would have been the first tackle taken off the board. So they killed it with him. They absolutely killed it. Jalen Moore, who they bring over from the 49ers, he's a guard tackle swing guy. So he's another guy who's going to wind up bolstering that offensive line. Remember the name. It's not up there right now, but just remember the name Brashard Smith, who's a 7th rounder out of SMU at the running back spot, who's a former wide receiver who they're going to use kind of like Jerick McKinnon. Another weapon for Patrick Mahomes. And then get to the defensive side. You heard Coach Spags talking about the fact that Chris Jones is around now, so it feels like it's in season. Well, I'll tell you what they probably also love about that. They drafted 2 defensive linemen. They drafted Ashton Gelati from Louisville, and they drafted Omar Norman Lott, a defensive tackle from Tennessee, who are really multi-dimensional pass rushers who can really benefit from the tutoring of a guy like Chris Jones. And then here's the kicker. Patrick Mahomes, as I said earlier, is pissed off. He doesn't like what people said about him at the end of last year. He cut his hair. He looks like an assassin now. He's ready to roll. I think they're going to be right back in it. They'll be right back in it.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to be right there. You hit on a lot of the young guys that they need to come in and step up offensively, defensively. But the key is going to be that offensive line. I love the Simmons pick if he can get healthy, if he can show that he can bounce back from that torn patella. So there's a lot of question marks there, but I think all the ingredients are there to make another run. But they're going to have to deal with 2 teams that I think are pissed off even more, and that's Baltimore and that's Buffalo, because the Chiefs have been to the mountaintop and they've won championships. But you got 2 teams in Baltimore and Buffalo that haven't been there. They haven't tasted it. They've made mistakes, and both Baltimore and Buffalo felt like they were the better team last season. So I get the Chiefs. They retooled. They tried to fix some of the areas. Mahomes has cut his hair. This is a question that's going to best be answered when we get to December and January, where we expect it to be Kansas City, Baltimore, and Buffalo dueling it out again.
So we got a lot of pissed off people, and we got some productive 7th-round picks on Kansas City, as Lou pointed out there. But I'll tell you one thing else.
You're going to be drafting them on your fantasy team.
You're damn right I will be, okay? And I'll tell you something else. That
Exactly.
They also have Rashee Rice back at practice today. And that is a welcome sight for a pissed-off Patrick Mahomes, because that has to bring a smile to his face, Lou. When you got a guy like Rashee Rice out there running the way he was today, looking the way he was, that has to make Patrick Mahomes feel a little bit happier, don't you think? Because he is a major asset when he's healthy.
There's no question about it. And here's the thing, right? This run of success that this team has had, this organization has had, they continue to have their coaching staff return intact. No one tries to come and get their coordinators. So you know what? They can hit the ground running so far ahead. It really is. It's kind of like, I mean, they're like stealing. They're like going, hey, that's cool. We'll keep all of our people together and we'll just try to retool. It's going to be a fun year in the AFC, man, because there's a lot of good football teams. A lot.
Yeah, over the last 2 seasons, Kansas City's allowed 18.2 points per game. Not just the best in the NFL. Over 2 years, they're the only team below 20, so the best.
The word accountability, it's like that for every position, but certainly that position, you got to be able to tell them when it's good and when it's not good enough in front of their peers. And then we spent a lot of time together one-on-one as well. I thought that was some of the best things that I did when I became coordinator. Was the quarterback and the play caller need to see the play exactly the same. And so you don't develop that trust unless you spend a lot of time together.
So Adam, year 1 with Williams, Chicago ranked last in yards per play. They make changes on the staff. Year 2, what have they done to get the most out of their QB?
Well, Phil, you heard Ben Johnson, the new Bears head coach, right there talk about all the time that he spent with Caleb Williams this offseason trying to marry their minds together to think alike. And every single thing the Bears have done this offseason seems designed to bring the best out of Caleb Williams. They hire Ben Johnson first and foremost and surround him with an assistant coaching staff to elevate Caleb Williams. They then go out and trade for 3 different offensive linemen to go fortify a leaky offensive front to protect Caleb Williams. And then they used 2 top draft picks on a tight end from Michigan, Colston Loveland, and a wide receiver from Missouri, and Luther Burden, to give Caleb Williams even more weapons. So he's got the coaches, he's got the line, he's got the weapons. They are doing everything they can to make sure that he fulfills his potential.
Yeah, Shedeur, you're right. They're doing everything they can. The one thing they can't do for him, though, is go out and put in the work. And then when it comes to game day, he's got to perform. You're right. New head coach, new coordinator, new quarterback coach, new receivers, new offensive line. They've given him the full NFL makeover when it comes to a quarterback. He has everything that any quarterback could want. Now you got to go out and you got to get it done. And you got to do it on Sundays. We can talk about minicamp and OTAs all we want to. Football is the ultimate show-me game. And the only time that he can show us is once we get into preseason and then once we get into the regular season. It's up to Caleb Williams with everything that's gone on in the organization, with everything that's happened, with the book from Seth Wickersham, with all the quotes that have come out. He's going to have to build himself up to make sure that come September, when he steps on that field for the first time, that'll be the first time, Lewis, that he can show us that he's actually bought in and that he's matured as an NFL quarterback and he can go out and get it done.
Yeah, that'll be the first time he can show us that, really what he has done is he has developed the timing and rhythm with Ben Johnson and with this offense to where it just seems much more fluid for him and he has answers. And I think a lot of that comes down to really them being able to give him digestible information that he can use in real time. And the guy who you see on your screen right there running ahead of him, JT Barrett, the quarterback coach, is going to play a huge role in that because he's kind of the go-between. He's kind of the guy who can really go to Ben Johnson on behalf of Caleb Williams because he's going to spend maybe even more time with him than Ben Johnson does and tell him, hey, look, these are the things that Caleb is feeling good about. These are the things that Caleb isn't so sure about. And that happens in practice. That happens in games. That happens in meeting rooms. And I think having that relationship will allow Caleb to really hit the ground running as fast as possible. I mean, it's a whole new offense for him.